Welcome to Research Matters with Unda and Kuda, an online show that is all about communicating the research taking place at NUST in efforts to promote the university's research agenda and the impact thereof.
It is exactly 11:15, and that means it's time for Research Matters with Unda and Kuda live right here on NUST FM. Now we have an amazing guest in studio this morning, and I'll afford my great co-host to introduce her this morning.
Thank you so much, Unda. As always, another week, another show. I'm absolutely excited to be here. Now, in studio today, we have Dr. Isobel Manuel. I must highlight, I keep trying to say Green, because I know that was your former surname, but I'm going to get it right today. Dr. Isobel Manuel, she's a lecturer and the head of Department of the Tourism and Hospitality Department in the Faculty of Commerce, Human Sciences and Education right here at the Namibia University of Science and Technology. Now, Doctor, they say every single one of us has something unique to share that can inspire another human being. What's your story? Just walk us through your childhood real quick to who you are today.
Okay. Thank you so much, Kuda and Unda, for having me on the show. It's indeed a pleasure. Well, in brief, I'm the youngest of two, which means I'm the baby at home. So I grew up when all the aunties and uncles, they started accounting and became accounting teachers. And I wanted to be the odd one out. So I first went to informatics, but because numbers is not my game, I failed the entry test. And then I had to be placed in a section where there was space at the then Polytechnic. I went for the interview in tourism. I actually loved the energy at that time during the interview. I went home, told my grandmother, I'm studying tourism. And she burst my bubble. Why do you want to study by traveling and taking people around the country? What will that do for you?
What good is that?
Yeah. So that has been the perception in many parents' mindset when their children want to study tourism. You are just traveling. You're not doing anything worthwhile.
Yeah, like a tour guide.
Like a tour guide. So that is that is the main thing people think we do when we study tourism. We travel, but it's not. Since then, my life has evolved. I did my 3 years. I enjoyed it. I was not very keen on working with tourists themselves, come to think of it, because I'm an introvert, mind you. And then I started working for Avis, where I found my passion. I worked with damaged vehicles. No need to speak to many people. And then
no human interaction.
Yes, very limited. So then I did my first degree. I got a scholarship from the Polytechnic then as well, through the Erasmus, to go to Spain to do my master's degree. So I spent for 2 years in Spain studying my master's degree in Spanish.
Wow.
So did you have to do a Spanish course, of course, before you came?
So you did a 9 months intensive course, and then I went into the first few modules of the master's and then the research. So that was cool.
Oh, wow. That is absolutely exciting. You know, I'm always fascinated by people that go study in other countries where English is not the main language, but you pull through.
Yes.
So what's your excuse if your degree is in English? Hey?
I mean, but Doc, maybe you can just highlight how many languages do you speak? I'm intrigued now. If you had to learn Spanish, I'm sure you're like a sponge when it comes to languages, probably.
Well, I tried a hand at studying German, but you don't practice it a lot, so it naturally fades out.
Yeah.
And then my not the home language, the language that I grew up in is Nama. So I understand it. I can say 1 or 2 words in it, but I don't speak it. And then, of course, English and Afrikaans. And my current household is quite diverse. My husband is mixed Herero or Shivambo. So he speaks those languages. So in the house, we actually just speak my English or Afrikaans.
Oh, okay.
I'm loving this mocktail, hey?
Like diversity.
Yes, and I think, look at this. How fascinating is it that initially what you wanted to study, the universe said, nope, we're not doing that. That's not for you. And tourism just somehow found you.
Yes.
You know, the universe literally aligned itself. And here you are. All these languages, it's something that you live as well. And I'm sure you've slowly turned from an introvert to an extrovert as expected of the sector and so forth. Very exciting.
This type of profession. But Doctor, maybe we can look at some of the research projects that you're currently working with or working in, and maybe why is it important that you contribute to those projects?
Okay. So my research focus area is on culture, heritage, the creative sector, women empowerment, a bit of corporate social responsibility, sustainability in tourism, all those aspects. So I'm working on 3 working papers at the moment that I'm actively involved in. And they are all with co-authors, because in our line of work at this stage, co-authors are really needed to assist you with the research process. So the first one, which I'm very excited about, it's a comparative study about the evolution of traditional marriages in 3 different countries. So we're looking at, in Namibia, we're looking at the Nama culture, Nama Damara culture, and then in Romania, the Romanian culture, and then in Senegal, a specific group that has also been identified. So we had 3 authors that are writing this paper to try to see how these 3 marriages evolved over the years, from the inception to what we call now. And I can already say some of the readings that have been done shows that Namibian weddings have really turned into a materialistic type of event and no longer bearing on the culture and the traditional values that it was embedded for. So that's the first paper, and I'm quite excited on that one. I'm hoping to turn it in end of the month, so keep your fingers crossed. I get it done.
Fingers crossed, toes too.
What date is it? We need to hold
The 14th. Today's the 14th.
We'll talk again.
Yeah.
End of the month.
Thank you. And then the second one is also with co-authors again with Romania, India, Egypt, and Namibia this time around. We're looking at how integrating green practices can address gender consideration in rural tourism. So that now speaks to my women empowerment interest, because that was also from my thesis, where I did a lot in women empowerment. So that speaks to that.
Doctor, if I could just jump in real quick there. When you speak of rural tourism, what are we talking about?
We're talking about tourism that happens in the rural landscape. What does that mean? What does it entail? It's where we want to look at what the local communities in those areas have to offer for tourists. So there's also where the creative sector comes in, where we look at your handicrafts, your food, your way of life that is being displayed in an authentic way for the tourists. Because when you look at some of the trying to link some of this. When you look at the trends that is currently happening in the tourism industry, your tourist now wants to be more not static, but involved in creating their own experiences. So we used to see tourists just wanting to look at museums. They're fine with that. Ride in the big red bus, they were fine with that. But now we want to go into the homesteads. We want to live with them. We want to eat what they are eating at this junction. So that is a shift, and that's what's making rural tourism, cultural tourism, heritage tourism, creative tourism stand out as new products for destinations. And then also this is more to your sustainability tourism that I'm doing into now, also with South Africa Namibia paper in the Etosha National Park and Kruger National Park, how protected area-based tourism can contribute to the Sustainable Development Goals. Looking at Etosha National Park and Kruger National Park. So I'm also doing with the University of Pretoria author there. And then some of the industry projects is your Africa Youth and Tourism Innovation Challenge and Summit. I think NUST the department has been heavily involved in that. It's happening now end of this month. We have some contestants from NUST participating in the event also, for their projects were selected for the event. So there I served as a judge to all the projects that were submitted. It's a Pan-African event, so we had to evaluate projects, over 125 projects that were submitted for this, because there's quite a lot at stake for the winner for this project. So there I use, there's quite a number of partners. NUST is one, the ministry is key, NTB, BDO Spencer, Africa Tourism Partners, and it's quite huge for us in Namibia. It's the last time that Namibia will host this event, so we have to go out with a bang this year.
Why? Why is it the last time, just for interest sake?
Namibia has been hosting it for 3 years, so now it has to rotate to another country.
Oh, I see.
That's quite interesting.
Yeah.
Doctor, if I can just have a look at all the projects that you've mentioned now, very diverse, from gender to sustainability to the SDGs to culture, all these things, quite intriguing. If I can just ask one question, if I have to lump it all up, why does this matter?
It's my passion.
But beyond your passion, right? Because we're talking about tourism. So sometimes people think it's okay, it's something that's just happening there. But essentially, what does it matter? What does it mean for the country to have a very solid tourism sector?
So research done into the sector really informs what the country needs. And we do have a lack of research for the Namibian perspective, especially in the tourism industry. Some of the research that is there is it's a bit outdated. And more, we really want to encourage researchers into the area to publish, because that is the only way that we can get more information out about Namibia. So this is why we are driving this agenda also all over that. We are researching about Namibia. Let's get it out there so that Namibia can also become known for what it has to offer. So for tourism, it also informs the sector, some of the key areas, like, for example, the newest trends. We wouldn't be able to understand those trends if we didn't research what the tourists actually would want to do. Yeah. So that is why it is very important that, and we as academics have the responsibility to contribute to the industry. So if we just sit back and not do anything, nothing will happen for the sector. So this is why we also work very closely with industry, especially in our research. We take them as sometimes our partners. They really are forthcoming to assist, especially with the data collection. And yeah.
But Doctor, maybe we can look at how you strike the balance between all these projects, because they're quite extensive projects, right? So how do you strike a balance with, married life, your academics, and all these projects that you need to handle? How do you
we're seeing the one side, hey, but I'm sure there's a whole lot of.
How do you find your feet?
Yeah, you have to set some boundaries somewhere, somehow, and you have to really schedule yourself accordingly. I used to schedule my day from waking up till I went to sleep. Sure. I relaxed that after my last son was born, because you never know with newborns what can happen.
Yeah.
But I was sitting yesterday in the workshop and I was realizing, okay, it's time to reschedule my life as it was in the past. My day would normally start at around 3 o'clock in the morning.
My goodness. I'm still asleep, Doctor. I don't know why you were up at 3 a.m.
Why?
By choice, eh?
Yeah, because in the mornings I'm most productive. So I want to do everything before 12. And by then after, let's take the day as it comes.
That's a very key thing, hey, to actually know your most productive times, because you can want to do all these 250 things, but if your body clock says, we're not doing that, then it's not going to work.
Exactly.
Like that.
Maybe we can take a musical break at this juncture, but Doctor, I want to ask you selected this song titled Terminator by King Promise. Is there a specific reason as to why this is the jam you submitted?
Listen to the lyrics.
Okay, so we should listen first.
Yes, and then you'll understand.
All right, we'll be back on the flip side of this one. It's titled Terminator, and this is by King Promise. Don't go anywhere. Do stick and stay to NUST FM.
Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you are listening to Kuda and Unda, or Unda and Kuda. Right? Am I getting that right? Why am I
can't believe we always get it wrong for some weird reason.
You are listening to Unda and Kuda right here on NUST FM, and in the house we've got Dr. Isobel Manuel. She's an HOD in the Tourism and Hospitality Department right here at the Namibia University of Science and Technology. Now, Doctor, just here during the break, we were talking about something that is so key, so crucial, not only to the tourism sector, but just to everything we do as a nation. Customer service. Where do we go wrong? I'm just going to go right for it. There is no good side. Where do we go wrong? How can we do better?
It's because we accept poor customer service as the norm. And we do not want to challenge the person providing that poor customer service to you. And I think that many times, if you don't challenge them, they will think it's something, it's the norm.
Yeah.
So really, it and also it starts with the individual that is offering the service. No? I learned many years ago things like empathy, compassion. You have to listen, you have to understand your customer. Because working in the service industry, those are key, that you have to understand your customer. Because ultimately you are paying a price for the service that that you are offering to them. So where did we go wrong? We are accepting poor customer service as good customer service.
Because, and the reason why I specifically asked that question is it's not only locally, as in local to local, so to put it, but it really has an impact on the tourism sector. Because if all this great work is being done, all this research, all these statistics, all these efforts by the different entities that are involved in this sector, the moment I land in this country, if somebody is rude to me, then already there's a perception that's created. You see, so it undoes or can undo all the great efforts that we're doing. So I think it's quite a big concern. And rightfully, as you put it, we need to do better.
Yeah. We've always queried also why immigration officials have to be rude. And because it was a real barrier for the tourism industry, because they are the first interface that a tourist will meet when they come into a destination. And we were informed that the minute the immigration officer is too friendly, something might slip through. They might lose their focus on the job and not realize that they really have to be stringent and vigilant for anything that does not need to come into a country. But you're right. It's one thing being rude, and the next thing being strict with policies and procedures.
Because you can have that very strict and very formal way of doing things
without being rude.
You see, I can be firm and strict, but not. I think there's no excuse for being rude.
Yeah,
That's
is no
another
excuse.
ball game, and people need to be able to differentiate the two.
Yeah, but there's also, as petty as it sounds, there's a lack of training, customer service training across all sectors. We're not just talking about the tourism industry. I mean, entities are doing a lot to upskill their staff members. And if that staff member does not internalize that training or does not take that training to heart, it's pointless. So it starts with the individual as well.
That's a very valid point. Is it something that we have embedded in the, say, programs, the tourism programs at NUST, or is it something that we're also just looking at in the future?
For us, customer service is, we start from year one. From our orientation session, we start with the importance of it. And this is why even at our hotel school, we wear uniforms. The students wear uniforms, because when you're working with people, you have to not just sound, but you have to look the part as well. So that for customer service, that is also key. How you look has to come out also. Show that you can deliver good service.
Yeah. Now, Doctor, on that note, maybe we can look at what is some of the advice that you would give to students who are looking to pursue a career in tourism and hospitality.
You have to have passion for the industry. Even if you're an introvert, you have to have passion. You want to be you would want to be in the sector, not just accidentally falling into it. I did that, but I fell in love with it at the end of the day. So I don't see myself moving out of the sector anytime soon. It's embedded in me. But for those ones out there to study, you have to have the passion for it. You have to have the want to work from the bottom up. Because this is an industry that starts with very little pay.
So you work your way up.
I was paid, I think, 1,000 rand a month, and I used to work at the tour operator that was housed in Ventu Country Club. So you had to get taxi, this and that. So but because of the passion, you suffer through it, because at the end of the day, you have to know why you are doing this. Tourism is very multifaceted. We expose our students to all areas, marketing, human resources, finance, tour guiding, tour operations, travel agencies. So you have to understand what is your speciality, and you want to do that. But passion is our greatest.
And just even to add to that, especially when you say passion, for me, it even speaks to just being patriotic, loving your country, to know this is, whether I'm getting $1,000 and this is, look, obviously you want more money, but obviously just to know I'm doing this for my country. Yes, it might just be in my little corner, it might just be a little drop in the ocean, but it contributes to the whole ecosystem. So
exactly.
I think that's absolutely great. As I'm sitting here, I'm really just thinking of what a privilege it is to actually be here. A few years ago, this would not have been possible with COVID, right? Like, this was not possible. We were not able to do this. How did the tourism sector, just from your perspective, how did you come out of it? What lessons do you think from the COVID time? This is what I can really say was my takeaway, what we learned.
So we've learned that the tourism industry is resilient. No matter what can shake it, we always bounce back. And yes, there was a lot of challenges for the industry during COVID. I mean, there was a lot of layoffs.
Yeah.
There was a lot of fear. A lot of people did not want to study tourism. We are a shining example of it. In the year after COVID, I think our intake was, if it was 30 across 3 programs, it was a lot. So people were scared about the future of the industry. But I think what we are seeing now, the industry has grown exceptionally well since COVID. So, but what we've learned is that, we are resilient, we can come out of it. But also we can do a lot more with less at the end of the day, especially with the digital platforms. Yes, some jobs might become redundant in the sector, but it's also creating new avenues for newer positions to be created in the sector. So it reminded us that nothing can remain stagnant. Not you as an individual, not the sector. We have to evolve as change happens. So we've learned from COVID. We've realized that we can do more with less. We can create new products in the blink of an eye to offer to the tourists. So we are resilient, and we will get there where we were before COVID numbers hit us. Namibia was having visitors up to 1.7 million, I think, in 2019. This figure has increased last year up to 500,000. It takes a bit of time, but we are hoping for next year 1-point-something million visitors to the country again.
Now, we cannot have a research show and not talk about some of the research and publications that you have put out. Maybe you can talk about what have you published so far, and particularly what are some of the topics that you are interested in and have managed to work on.
Okay. So, as I said, my core focus is on the heritage, culture, all of those, and sustainable tourism. Sure, it has, my CV is outlined with all the publications, and I have to think a bit back. So I published looking at the creative tourism, what are the opportunities and challenges for Namibia as a sector, as a new product for Namibia. I've looked at sustainable tourism, what it has to offer. Sustainable tourism, sustainable tourism. Yeah, I think I did that paper with Dr. Kavita as well. And then I did also a very rare study with an author from UNAM, where we looked at disability among students and how it affects their progress. More specifically, visual impairment for students, and how their progress is affected by, is there enough facilities available for them at that. Then I did with co-authors again a study on nightlife, museum nightlife, what opportunities museums can offer in terms of nightlife for visitors, and then looking also at the digitization of heritage, how museums can play a role, what they can do of that. And then, some other papers that are not yet published that also speaks to your...
Will it be the end of this month?
No.
Yet to be published.
She said end of this month.
That's the one.
Not those ones?
Not those ones.
Okay, just checking.
So then there's the one on, again, in the creative sector, and more specifically handicrafts, how crafts can aid to women empowerment in rural communities. And then I think corporate social responsibility is also linking around somewhere there in the hospitality industry. Are we doing enough as an industry towards corporate social responsibilities? So those are all what I call long-standing papers that have to be finalized.
No, I absolutely love it. And I think, as always, I sound like a broken record, but I say this all the time. I get very excited when I see the multidisciplinary approaches in things to say, it's not only strictly tourism, but it touches so many different spaces, and I think that's always quite exciting to see what we can achieve together. Now, we did a throwback right in the beginning of the show. We spoke about your past, a little bit about your childhood, and so forth, but looking ahead, what's next? What would you say is your ultimate life goal when it comes to your career, to say, if I tick this box, I've arrived?
Wow, that's a difficult question,
I know.
Kuda.
That's the whole point.
Because I haven't ticked that box as yet. So I've been at NUST now for 10 years. This is my 11th year. So I've really grown along the years from a junior lecturer when I entered up till now senior lecturer and HOD. So if I stay in the academic environment, of course, the next tick box is associate professor, and that comes with a number of new responsibilities added on. But if I, for some other reason, decide I have to give back to the sector as well, I would want to move back into industry, because I worked for a very short time in industry.
So you feel like you've still got more to
Yeah,
give?
I still have got more to give, but of course at more strategic level that I would want to go back into industry. But
do you promise if you go back to industry, you'll still work very closely with NUST?
of course.
Okay, we've got this on record.
We do. And it's going to be
That's all I
public.
wanted, yeah.
So that tick box is not there yet, but I'm enjoying what I'm doing. This semester I've taught after a 3 semesters break. I didn't teach, and this semester is the first time I taught again, and it was really energizing again to work with students. So I really think I want to go back, a step back, and teach more at the university. But with administration, there's always a bit of a
Balance
So-
to, yeah.
a balance to it. So yeah, but I'll see. We'll see. Maybe the next 5 years I might still dedicate to NUST, but let's see.
All right.
What
We
the
would
future
love to
holds.
have you here for another 15 years. I'm pushing it here. But Doctor, thank you so much for your time this morning and speaking to Unda and Kuda right here on Research Matters. Of course, this does bring us to the end of this very brief but very insightful conversation we had this morning. But for more details, don't forget you can check out the next episodes on Research Matters with Unda and Kuda by following the Research, Innovation and Partnerships at NUST pages. That is on Facebook and LinkedIn, as well as on the NUST FM Facebook and Instagram pages. Our podcasts are now live on that is our NUST YouTube page, so head on over there and catch up on all those that you haven't seen already. But we did have Dr. Isobel in studio, and this last jam is titled Save the Vow by Timid Dokola. So do stay and stay to NUST FM.